What is going on, and welcome back to CZ Adventure. I know it's been a long time since I've posted any type of video. It's actually been, I think, over 100 days. And that's because a lot has been going on in my life. Me and my high school sweetheart, Nicole, got married. I moved from Oregon to Colorado, and we went on a trip to Hawaii in between those two things. It has been an absolute blast of a time, but let me tell you, I am so excited and inspired to get back to creating videos and building awesome stuff for you guys. Like I mentioned, we moved from Oregon to Colorado. I mentioned this in a previous video. It was my last long form video that I posted on the channel. And honestly, I think this was the best decision we possibly could have made. Oregon will forever have a special place in my heart. It's where I started my career as a fisheries biologist. It's where I built the first van, and it's where me and my now wife got married. Not to mention, got my dog Halsey there. That's important too. I used to live here years ago, and I think this is the perfect place to go all in on CZ Adventure and really turn this thing into something amazing. Now, there's about 6,000 of you now, which absolutely blows my mind. And I think the video with the most views has over 300,000 views. So you can see here, this is the channel. We have 6.1 thousand subscribers. I can't believe it. And look at these videos, 10K, 20K, 26K, 7K. And these are just the For You. The most popular videos, 353K, 62K, 26K. I can't even imagine what 300,000 people would look like in a room, let alone tuning in to watch my videos. So thank you. Thank you. And not saying that this is the biggest channel ever, but I see some great potential in this. And one day, maybe we could make this a real business with the help of you guys. So thank you so much if you're tuning into this, and thank you so much for watching previous videos, because honestly, it means more than you'll ever know. So what we have planned for today's video is we're going to be pretty much starting the new van building shop, the new woodworking shop. And previous shop that I had was a 2-car garage. It was an incredible space, especially coming from previously building vans in a duplex parking lot to moving into a 2-car garage right in front of my house was a game changer, and it allowed me to work through the winter. At this new house that we're living in Colorado, we only have a 1-car garage, and we need to build something that's going to allow us the flexibility of using it as a garage, as well as my new van building woodworking workshop. So what we have planned for today is we're going to be building a large workbench that I can store every single one of my tools on. And I want this workbench to be on casters so I can actually roll it around my garage. And when we need to pull a car in there, or a van maybe, truck, whatever it may be, we can push the new workbench up against the wall, get it out of the way. And then if we need to, build anything, which recently I've been thinking I want to do a lot more live edge, we have a huge 4x8 surface that we can pull out of the wall, have all of my tools ready to go. And by chance, if this is your first time tuning in, please subscribe. It'll go a long way, I promise you. This is the new CZ Adventure headquarters. This tiny little 1-car garage. Looks a little bit deeper in person than it does on camera, but it's small. All the framing in here is brand new. This was not always a garage. It used to be a carport, and as you can tell, there was a window here, and it's pretty weird in here. But here on CZ Adventure, we like to improvise, and we will definitely make this work. This is going to be an amazing space for what we want it to be. Because it was a carport, there's not a lot of electricity that was run out to this garage. So one thing that we need to do is capitalize on this one single plug up there. So that's kind of a major part of making this workbench mobile, is we can actually bring it into the center here and have like a pretty good space to walk around the workbench, as well as run a cord for electricity from the ceiling. So we picked up the materials already for this project. Essentially we have the casters that are some pretty heavy duty casters, they're locking, and then we got some 4x4s to stud this workbench out, and then we have some 2x4s, some cheap construction grade 2x4s to essentially help us make the tabletop and the shelf that's going to go on the bottom. And we definitely went the cheap route with the particle board. My last workbench had particle board for the tabletop, and I kind of liked the idea of it. Essentially, if the tabletop gets burnt or wet or cut, anything like that, we can replace it pretty cheap. So what we have right here is an 8-foot 4x4. They're actually a little bit over 8 feet. You'll see that in the video right here. But what we are using this for is the actual 4 legs of our new workbench. And we thought 4 feet would be a good height, but I'm gonna just save you a little bit of time right here. If you'd like to make this exact same workbench, just cut your 4x4s into sections of 36 inches or 3 feet. I found that to be a lot better height when you add the casters and everything. It's pretty tall. What I did later is I just cut about 1 foot off of our 4-foot sections and turned them into 36 inches, and that worked fine. The reason I went with the 4x4s is they're just strong. They're going to be really strong. Although they are heavy, the casters I got are rated up to about 250 pounds each, which is an incredible amount of weight. So I'm marking these directly in half, but again, cut yours to 36 inches. It's the perfect height. I'm about 5'10", and I find that it's just tall enough. So now I'm working on the 2x4s. The 2x4s are just going to pretty much border the tabletop. These 2x4s were cut exactly to 8 feet. Next, just measure the space between these two 8-foot 2x4s. Now screw these two pieces together with 3-inch screws to essentially make a box. It always helps to make a pilot hole to avoid cracks. What I could use is one of those jigs that's essentially like a corner bracket for making boxes like this. And it just clamps the two pieces together to make a perfect 90-degree angle. I don't have those, so I'm using gravity and a flat surface. Even though this is the technique I decide to go with, all of my work comes out pretty dang square. So if you don't have one of these jigs, don't worry. I would just do this. One thing that I'd like to do to improve my long form content for you guys is to just do more of these voiceovers. I think I could get the point across a lot better, and I don't need to fill in the extra space with funky music. I get a lot of complaints about the music. So feel free to let me know down in the comments your feelings on this topic. If you'd prefer me to put some music over these spaces or just talk to you guys and kind of explain what's going on. I think I like this approach a little bit more. Now that the 8x4 foot frame for our particle board tabletop is complete, let's go ahead and slap this thing on top and secure it to the frame. Once we got it centered on the frame, it was an absolute perfect fit. I didn't use wood glue for the actual particle board tabletop because I like the idea of being able to remove this, and if there's glue, it just probably would become pretty messy. Particle board is now attached to its new frame, and now we just need to flip it on the other side to finish the rest of our build. This is when we realized that the legs were way too long at 4 feet, so we cut them down to 36 inches, which is 3 feet long. Placing our newly cut 4x4s that are cut to 36 inches in each one of the corners of our new tabletop frame. We are attaching each of the legs for the workbench with some wood glue and then 6 3-inch construction screws. Now, that probably sounds like overkill, but I just wanted to overbuild this because when we have super heavy slabs, cabinetry, big heavy tools on this workbench, I don't want this thing to be shaking and wobbling around, and this will prove the test of time with 6 3-inch screws and some wood glue. I've wanted to build my own workbench for some time now, and this was the perfect opportunity because I really want to be able to utilize this garage like I mentioned before. It's a workshop, but it's also the only auto space, for lack of a better term, that I have in this tiny house. So I think that this is going to be crucial for organization, efficiency, and production of my small business. And believe it or not, you're actually seeing this clip in real time. Kidding, I'm just kidding. Now measuring the distance between 2 of our legs, this is going to give us the length of the bottom shelf, and we're going to be cutting a 2x4 to this length.
after gluing and clamping, time to send some more 3-inch screws. This is going to be the bottom shelf of this workbench where we are also attaching the casters. I think it's time to grab a fresh battery. This one seems tired. It needs to hit the charger. Now, I'm sure there's plenty of ways to do this a whole lot better, but this is just the way that I did it, and hopefully you could gain something from this, if not learn from my mistake. Now measuring the distance between these freshly mounted boards, and this will give us the width of our bottom shelf. Now that the width of the bottom shelf is cut out, it's time to attach these casters. And again, these are heavy duty 250-pound capacity casters. All 4 of the casters lock, making this a nice, stable surface to be cutting things on.
Holy crap, this thing is huge. So it's starting to come together pretty nicely. What we have to do now is just cut out the bottom shelf and install that. And then once we're done, we'll probably need to move some stuff out of the back of the garage, and this will sit flush back there. But let's go ahead and cut the rest of this shelf and finish this thing off. You know that your circular saw blade needs to be changed when it can't even cut through particle board. I had to switch to the jigsaw here just to finish this cut of the bottom shelf. Granted, this blade's been around since the Astro. This piece was cut exactly to the dimensions of the bottom shelf, so the idea is it should just slide right in and we could just mount it directly to this bottom frame. We designed this bottom shelf to be slightly more narrow than the top, so the actual work surface of the workbench overhangs over the shelf and you could get nice and close to it. And just like that, our bottom shelf fit like a glove. A little shimmy, a little kick. Gotta do what you gotta do. Well, it's the next day and here is the workbench that we built, and let me tell you, came out awesome. So as you can see, we found its final resting place pushed up against this brick wall at the back of the garage, and it holds all of my tools. These are all my saws, jigsaws, circular saw, miter saw, all my drills. And then in this container we have all of the silicone adhesives, that sort of thing, wood finishes. And let me tell you, this is going to come in handy. We could throw, as you can see, some large slabs and load this whole thing up, build cabinets on this thing. It's going to just be a great work surface. And the best part about building this massive workbench is, well, I guess there's two things. One, it's on casters and I can move it into the center of my garage and work all the way around this 4x8 surface. And number two, it only costs about $170, and that's really not that expensive. If you go and buy like a pre-made workbench, you're gonna be looking at $500, and it's not gonna be nearly as nice as this as far as surface area and storage. So I think this was a win. So I hope you enjoyed this introduction into making content once again. I know this was probably a shorter video, but what we're doing here is just getting back into the swing of things. We've had a lot of changes in our life, but YouTube is something that I don't want to change. I want to keep doing this, and I want to pursue this more than I ever have. So stay tuned for more content. You're gonna see the honeymoon movie that I made in Hawaii, as well as I'm gonna build some live edge tables and try to make some profit off of those and really take CZ Adventure into the more business state of mind. Thank you so much, and as always, we will see you in the next one.